In this episode, Brandon Knight and I had some technical difficulties we had to work through. There was actually a glitch on the software we were recording with where there was actually a delay on my end. It's nothing too bad, but it is noticeable in the episode. Sometimes one of us might just react a little later or reacting to something out of order. That's just all that's about. But really great episode talking with Brandon Knight about being a ninja coach. So I think it's worth your time. So stick around and just be aware if some reactions happen out of order. That's why. Hope you enjoy the show.
Server, you remind us of our Savior's bull and towel. Teacher, you are raising up a child to be kind. Lawyer, give us hope that justice one day will surround us. May God's kingdom come, on earth his will be done.
Ephesians 4, verses 25 through 29 in the Christian Standard Bible. Therefore, putting away lying, speak the truth, each one to his neighbor, because we are members of one another. Be angry and do not sin. Don't let the sun go down on your anger, and don't give the devil an opportunity. Let the thief no longer steal. Instead, he is to do honest work with his own hands, so that he has something to share with anyone in need. No foul language should come from your mouth, but only what is good for building up someone in need, so that it gives grace to those who hear. In the book of Ephesians, St. Paul is explaining what it means to be the church. Before this pericope, Paul writes that the church is to work together in all our different roles or, things. Here, St. Paul insists that the church builds one another up in word, in deeds, and he even ties our occupational work to this idea of building each other up. Brandon Knight, how do you think the way that we present ourselves in work can tie into this idea of building one another up?
Well, when it comes to our different occupations, our different jobs, we use our gifts, our talents, or whatever that is to the glory of God. And that includes people who aren't in vocational ministry. Everyone has an occupation, everyone has a job. And so as we are providing good customer service, as we are protecting our communities, as we are teaching specific skills to students and individuals, we are building people up as we are doing this to the glory of God and with a heart of, I care about you, and therefore I am going to do my job well. We are building people up. It may not look, when you hear that building each other up, I think we immediately jump to some form of sanctification, we're being a part of the growth of an individual spiritually. But this can look broader. This can look like making communities safe. That's a big deal. That's caring about your neighbor, even passing along skills, trades, and all that kind of stuff it's all still in this realm of doing good by others through our vocation.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I like that.
Be close to us, Lord, have mercy on us, Lord, please put your hands on us, day by day.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Whole Church Job Fair, part of the Whole Church podcast. And like any good season finale, we're filled with technical difficulties and glitches throughout. That's what everybody wants. You waited for the suspenseful end, and then there's a glitch, and it just ends. I should just end the recording right here. That'd be great. I am your host, Joshua Noel, here with one of my favorite return guests, one of my favorite podcasters. I've always loved my seminary life, and then he started doing Kung Fu Pizza Party, and I'm like, maybe if I just had a podcast from Brandon a day, like an apple a day for the doctor away, but maybe a Brandon a day keeps, depression away or something. The one and only Brandon Knight. It's so good to have you back, man. I mean, maybe it doesn't help you. It just helps others. You still have to go through the because you can't have your own dose of Brandon.
It just helps others.
You are Brandon. Yeah.
I am the cause of my depression. It's just what it comes down to. But I'm glad it can.
What heals us
shake
all
the
is
blues
you.
away for other people.
You heal us all, but also you're your own poison.
I am my own worst enemy. Whatever that song was. Hi, whole church. Good to see you all. And this is the finale.
Yeah.
You saved this conversation for the finale.
Yeah. The most relevant job.
All right.
The most relevant job for the finale. You guys have been like, man, we don't care about these other ones. The only icon on the logo for this series that relates to me is that little ninja. What's he about? That's me. And all you listeners who are like, I'm the ninja. Well, here's the man that relates to you, the one and only ninja coach, Brandon Knight. Which is great because now I feel like this. I can call you like your sensei, your teacher, your pastor, your coach. I can just call you something different each time I refer to you in this episode, I think.
I remember one time a couple months ago, you reached out to me. You were like, hey, man, you just did a guest appearance on another show and they kept calling you Pastor Brandon the whole time. And I don't usually do that. And I just want to know, is that what you want to be called? And I remember responding to you by saying, for $20, you can call me whatever you want. So in this episode, just go for it, Josh. Just whatever name you gonna go with. But yes, my actual career title is Ninja Coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your prettiness. His $20 is in the mail. It's fine. Your prettiness, Brandon, he is here. Princess Knight is going to tell us all about what it's like to work for the Y, be a ninja coach, dealing with kids. And part of why Brandon is part of the finale is he went through seminary. He kind of learned about being a pastor. He kind of does this pulpit supply ministry we've talked about before. He goes to different churches. He fills in there. Brandon's a little bit of it all, right? He works in the real world. He works in pastors. He's seen different churches from the inside and outside. And so he's got the ultimate authority. When we ask him what's relevant, he knows. Yeah.
Oh, I am excited for that part.
All right. So before we get to Dragon Slayer Brandon's story, I do have to go through TJ's parts. Make sure you check out the rest of the Anazao podcast network. There's shows like My Seminary Life and Kung Fu Pizza Party on there. You should check those out. Let's see. I really am just scrolling through and reading, and I'm sorry, listeners, I don't know how to do TJ's parts. There are paid subscriptions, that's in bold for some reason, on Captivate, Apple Podcasts, and Patreon for extra content where you can support all of our ministries. Apple Podcasts, you can just actually subscribe to the Anazao network and get a bunch of different bonus from different shows, and that's probably the most cost-effective way to do it, honestly, is Apple Podcasts. But if you want to support us individually, it's easier to do that on Patreon, I think. Okay, and now, Brandon, because I've been so serious so far that I'm running out of titles already. We always start our show off with some silliness. It's a holy sacrament here. And this time, our good friend Samantha Perez, on our Facebook group, we were like, hey guys, what are the biggest theological questions that are argued about in our churches and seminaries? And Samantha Perez goes, wait, is a hot dog a sandwich? And then that got a ton of votes for some reason. So now that just had to be incorporated somewhere in the series. So it's our silly question for this. I need to know, Captain Brandon Knight, is a hot dog a sandwich?
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Brandon to you. Is a hot dog a sandwich? So when it comes to this philosophical debate that dates back to Aristotle, I'm pretty sure.
The church has been wrestling with this one for a while.
For a very long time. I don't know why we can't just let a hot dog be a hot dog. But I do see the argument of it is an object wrapped around dough, but not encased by said bread. Because obviously if it's encased, then it becomes a dumpling, ravioli, or a Pop-Tart, which is its own theological and philosophical debate in of itself. So is a hot dog a sandwich? I will go with yes, based off of the construct, although I guess it could be a regional issue as well. Where do you land on this first tier theological issue?
Yeah. Well, people had to make it halfway through the series before they really found out. TJ told him early on that he believed it is in fact a sandwich. He gave like an Oxford definition. I fell back on my more Taoist leanings of like, sometimes we just overthink things and simplicity is the answer. And when I see a hot dog, I'm not like, oh man, that's my favorite sandwich. Like just doesn't pop in my head.
That's a very good point too, though, because like that's nowhere near when I think of like, oh, I'm going to go to Jersey Mike's or Jimmy John's. I don't go there for hot dogs. I go there for sandwiches. Now I just have the image
when
I want a Reuben from Arby's.
At Jimmy John's. Where's the hot dogs?
Where's the hot dog? Sorry for my Chicago accent. Where's my hot dog at?
His favorite sandwich.
So you're like more at the right. So in your Taoist leaning, you're gonna go more of like a
simplicity.
Just let it be. Yeah.
Well, and here we go. I'll make a more thorough argument for the finale here. And since TJ can't defend it, his side, you can defend his side for him. I think the whole reason this question can exist is because they come up with the question knowing that you don't want to say a hot dog's a sandwich. The whole reason that someone asked this question is because inherently we all are like, hot dog's not a sandwich, but none of us have a good explanation for why it's not. So the whole reason you ask the question is just so you could tell someone that they're wrong and that it is a sandwich, because technically look at the definition. But the fact that you asked it knowing that people don't want to say it's a sandwich tells me that it's not a sandwich. Sorry, Samantha. I think you gave away your answer by asking the question.
Often Josh is referred to as the ultimate Uno reverse card. But here's the thing. That was a really good use of the Uno reverse card there of like, but why are you asking that question? Because we ask these kinds of questions in the academic world to screw with the professor and just draw out the class a little bit. We didn't. Now, Samantha, right? Samantha.
Yeah.
We'll do one for you. Is a Pop-Tart a dumpling?
I like it. Find out next time on. Pick a show. Yeah. You just have to follow all the On the Zal Podcast Network shows to figure out which show was going to answer that question. But Brandon, we do have a follow-up. In what ways, if any, do you think this question could be relevant to your life?
Oh, it would absolutely be relevant because I'm not even joking here. No, I'm not. Don't put ketchup on it. I mean, I do, but don't put ketchup on it. No, I could see how this could be a very relevant question, though, because my son, he's turning 3 here pretty soon. Probably by the time this episode comes out, he'll be 3 years old. And that means here pretty soon, like in another year or two afterwards, he's going to start the why phase, the question phase of like constantly asking questions. And you know what? A little 4-year-old would ask the question, is a hot dog a sandwich?
And then he'll ask why.
So yeah, I think it could happen.
Until you're left with, what even is a hot dog? What is this meat? Anyway. And with that, we should do
a sandwich.
Maybe. Yeah. We'll talk about more serious things now, like ninjas. The reason we're doing this series is because a lot of our listeners are pastors, theologians, church leaders, people who attend seminary. Those kind of people, according to stats and stuff that we blindly trust. And we believe our church leaders should benefit from hearing more and learning from people who are in different occupations other than just ministry. So that's why we're doing the series, or finished doing this. That's why we did the series, I can say now. Weird. Our listeners, though, they probably remember you from your work as a pulpit supply minister over on My Seminary Life. I don't know if you've been on the show since you started Kung Fu Pizza Party, but you also now work as a ninja coach for the YMCA. You want to fill our listeners in for like just catch them up a little bit. What's up with you? What's this chapter in your life now that seems so focused on Kung Fu and ninjaism? And when do we get samurai out? Yeah.
Oh man. I'm working on the samurai thing, man. I was thinking about this. I'm not even sure when was the last time I was on Whole Church. I was really thinking about this. I was supposed to be on a couple months ago when you did the Christian mysticism episode, and that just didn't work out for me to be here. So I don't, it may have been a while now. So I'll just kind of I'll do the best I can. So back before I knew Josh, like very shortly before I knew Josh, I went back to seminary and started my seminary life as a show to recap what I was studying every week. Here's what was the homework assignment. Here's the book I read, things like that. Got connected with Josh. We launched systematic ecology. Eventually, I graduate from seminary about 2 years after meeting Josh, and we launched the Anazao Ministries podcast network. And it was a whirlwind of a time there. The show took this pivot and became more of like I'm going to now do deep dives into subjects that I want to study or things that I didn't study in seminary that I probably should have, like apologetics. Didn't have to take any apologetics classes. Mm-hmm. And I love bringing that up because it always makes Christian Ashley cringe. And also just that laugh, though. But the whole time I have been wanting to start a second show. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so my availability fluctuates, but I really wanted to start a second show. And I was still trying to get into vocational ministry. How to do this next part quickly, I don't know. So sorry, listeners, you're going to hear me talk a lot in this episode. TJ always talks so much on Whole Church that it's hard to get a word in edgewise. Yeah. So you're just going to have to listen to me talk more. I graduated from Bible college in 2015. So from the fall of 2015 to the summer of 2023, right after I had graduated from seminary and my seminary life is taking this pivot, I was actively applying to various churches and denominations and ministries, all with the intention of getting into pastoral ministry. All the while I am doing pulpit supply and volunteering with my home church in the youth group, teaching there and other things as well. During that time period, 2015 to 2023, so that's 8 years. During that time period, I applied to roughly somewhere in between 200 to 300 jobs related to vocational ministry, the bulk of them being pastoral ministry. And I predominantly got ghosted. I predominantly heard the word no. Out of, like I said, it was somewhere between 200 or 300. I had to start an Excel spreadsheet at one point to keep track, not for my own personal enjoyment, because I got no enjoyment out of it, but because I realized at one point I was accidentally applying to the same job twice. So I needed some kind of system so that way I wouldn't do that. During that time period, out of that many job applications sent out, I received less than 10 interviews, most of them not going anywhere beyond the first round interview process. A lot of them, even when I thought maybe I was going to land the job, they ended up just ghosting me and never following through. And like months later, I'm reaching out like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh yeah, we hired someone like months ago. Why are you reaching out to us? I even had one church, and this was like during seminary. So somewhere right around like 2021, 2022, I had a church, I applied, and they did respond back to let me know that if by this point no church had hired me, they seriously doubt God had called me into ministry. So that was great.
What?
Yes, true story. So all the while, like everybody who's in my corner, like wanting to support me and want to, you know, from my parents to my brothers to my friends to my wife, and a lot of my friends who were in ministry, they were encouraging me the best they knew how to. Oh, you know, the disciples, they weren't qualified for what God called them into, which is a weird comment to make because I think Judas had a very specific purpose.
You're super qualified.
He was very specific. He was super called for what he was supposed to do. Or like the whole God doesn't, what's the one really nice thing people like to say? God doesn't
call the qualified.
He qualified. Yeah. That one, got that one a lot. And then just started getting all this advice, like, especially early on, like, hey, once you get married, once you have a kid, once you're like in your late 20s, early 30s, once you get that master's degree, like, then churches are really going to be interested in you, because obviously that's all right there in the third letter to Timothy, that those are the qualifications of a pastor, that, you're 30 years old with a wife and a kid.
Yeah, I've read that one.
Sarcasm. So you read that one. Good. So I'm like checking all of these additional boxes. I think my favorite one of all of these like cliches and other things that people are saying is that my absolute favorite one was when I graduated from college. I took my resume and my cover letter to the like office that helps graduates get jobs, and they made some tweaks. Nothing revolutionary, just like, oh, you should use these kinds of words and you should use dashes instead of bullet points. Fast forward just a few months later, I am in seminary, and I now have that same resume at that office in seminary. That I did seminary twice. I guess I should mention that. In the fall of 2015, I started seminary, eventually had to drop out. So I'm in the fall. It's the fall of 2015. I'm in seminary. I take my exact same resume to that office that helps people get jobs. And that guy looked me dead in the eye and said, you should really use bullet points instead of dashes. And it was like, that was like the earliest foreshadowing. That was the earliest foreshadowing. And I'm trying to watch my language in all of this. That was the earliest foreshadowing that this is all BS. There is just so much BS that goes into this process. So summer of 2023, I am married with a kid, late 20s, with a master's degree now. And I have a job interview for a hospital chaplain job. And I thought I freaking nailed the job interview, knocked it out of the park. They even did the whole like, okay, you're going to hear from us in a few days now. Wink. A few days go by, whatever that day was that they were like, well, we'll reach back out here in a few days. Whatever that day was, comes and goes. I send a email to the people. I'm like, hey, just checking in. Anything that you all need from me? And the response back was, we moved on to other candidates. And that was the straw. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Because then when I replied with, well, do you have any feedback for me? Never heard from them again. And that was the straw that finally broke the camel's back, because I had spent the majority of the past 8 years, you could even throw in my time in college as well. So like over 10 years now, just trying to get evangelical Christianity to take a shot at me. Okay. That was it. That was all I was trying to do. Just somebody take a shot at me. Just try. And nobody wanted me. Nobody. And then finally, I remember telling my wife, I was like, basically at this point, I get it. Getting a pastor job, the people hiring, they are the captain of the cheerleading squad in high school, and I am the nerdy AV kid who's got no chance. And I get it, and I'm fine with that. I do not feel the need to make you like me anymore. I don't. You don't want me. I get it. I was still frustrated because I was still down about it. And I was in counseling at the time, not with a Christian counselor, but a guy who just respected my views nonetheless. And just in a moment of, wow, my client really needs a win right here, he goes, next time you look for a job, because really at this point, I'm just trying to find a job to get me out of the house because I am a stay-at-home parent and just need a little bit more of an income boost and the whole bit. He goes, next time you look for a job, just try something different. Look and see what your local Boys and Girls Club, what your local YMCA is looking for. I'm sure they would be happy to have somebody who is like you, like an older guy, an older person who's, going to care about making an impact on kids. They're always looking for that kind of people. It's like, okay. So next time I got on Indeed, I looked up YMCA, and the very first job listing was for Ninja Coach. And I always make the joke.
Yeah.
When you're on Indeed and you see Ninja Coach, you apply and ask questions later. You just go for it. You just go for it. And I got the job.
Correct.
Yeah. That's what you do. And I got the job and haven't looked back. I really enjoy it. I love it. And I think it was about back in September. Like I said, I've been wanting to start a second show for a while. And the concept for Kung Fu Pizza Party was one that I had been sitting on for a very long time. Just like this, initially very focused on doing martial art movie, Kung Fu, samurai, ninja flick reviews, just doing like movie reviews. But because there's so little, it's so surprising. There's like very little like pop culture martial art content out there in the podcast world, that is. Like there's so little like shows devoted to that stuff. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to branch this out a little bit and start incorporating more than just doing movie reviews. And so, that's just been going since September. It's been a lot of fun. And I know that is probably way more detail than what you were looking for of what's been going on in your life. But that whole, like the journey from seminary to where I'm at now seems like such a weird jump of like, how did the seminarian end up being a ninja coach? But like, you had to understand like where I was at up until that point. So yeah, that's me. That's what's been going on. And I have been looking forward to talking about all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's a lot. That's a lot. I think this is probably a good place to mention. I hope to have Brandon back later this year in the fall. We've been doing like 2 series each year. This fall, our series is going to be, haven't quite got the name for it yet. It's like behind the scenes of the church kind of deal, maybe behind the pulpit. I don't know. We'll see. But I want to do like a series of like what happens behind those big church events we go to, where like what goes into creating that worship setting that happens on stage, and behind the scenes of a seminary. So that's fun too. Or maybe
interesting.
Jarring.
Okay.
But
we'll keep
see.
that in mind.
We'll see. Oh man. Yeah. So, JJ's not here to stop me. So one of the things that for me that's been sticking out since I started more embracing like the Taoist stuff for myself is the whole concept of the Te, of like your truest self. Which, given the Bible, I believe my true self is found in Christ because I am a Christian. What's interesting to me is like how many times we find this older in life after we're like, I no longer care what these people think about me. I'm going to do my thing, whatever that thing is. For me, it was deciding that it's not preaching from a pulpit with churches I disagree with until maybe one day I'll convince them to agree with me. It's not going to happen. I kind of learned to lean into this podcasting thing, and that's going to become my ministry. Hearing your story and how like it seems like you're starting to find yourself more in like kung fu martial arts kind of stuff, and finding a way to incorporate that into ministry has been it's encouraging to me to watch that happen with you. It's like, wow, it's really, really cool. Another thing for me, of course, was for a long time, Kingdom Hearts was that thing that I really liked. I didn't talk about too much. And then one day I was like, actually, it's where I get a lot of meaning in who I am. And just stopped caring that people think I'm weird for that. Which is why I now have a Substack. Okay. Sorry. We're having some technical difficulties, so I'm never sure if I'm delayed or if you've heard anything. So I'm just going to move on to the next thing. This is our whole church job fair. So before getting anything else, Brandon, before getting anything else, if somehow someone's never heard of what you do, Brandon, how would you describe the job of a ninja coach, and how would you address anyone who might be interested in pursuing said career?
I would be pleasantly surprised if anybody knew what this was, because I had no idea what it was. So I will say this. I did kind of the glitches, man, are getting to us. But I will say, just to kind of jump off of what you were saying there a moment ago a little bit. Like, yeah, I think there's a part of this of like embracing not like a new part of my identity or trying to completely shut out a different part of my identity, but just like embracing a fuller picture. As a kid, like as a very young child, I had people telling me, Brandon, you're probably going to grow up and be a pastor one day. And that does something to a person. It does something to a person. I don't care how toxically positive you are to be rejected that much. But being told at a very young age that like, hey, Brandon, you're going to grow up and be a pastor one day. Like that is a very different way to shepherd a person. I'll just put it that way. And so I think for me, I'm just kind of in a place of like seeing my life more than just this one factor. So again, I'm a ninja coach with an organization called Ninja Zone. Ninja Zone started in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. That is not the name of the town, but if you look at it on the map, that's kind of what it looks like. It's in a suburb of Indianapolis. Because when you think ninja, you think cornfields in Indiana. Basically, the idea behind Ninja Zone was at some point in history, gymnastics became gendered. I don't know why. I don't know who made the decision. But at some point, gymnastics very much became a girl activity. It was something for the girls. I mean, you even look at like the Olympics. Nobody gives a rip about the men's team. It's all about the women's when it comes to the summer games. And, you know, as somebody who has now worked in a gymnastics environment for a year and a half, that's very true. Like there's hardly any boys in just the gymnastics or tumbling courses. It is, they're just not there. I don't know who made this decision, but that's what happened. And so Ninja Zone was an attempt to introduce gymnastics to boys in a way that would be very stereotypical, appealing to boys. So along with gymnastics, it also introduces parkour and tricking, which is really cool, flashy martial art kicks that are not good for self-defense, but they sure do look cool. So it brings those three together, paints everything black, throws a little cartoon ninja on. I don't know if we're doing a video version of this, but Josh, I got one of my work shirts on so you can kind of see the shirt a little bit. Black and red is like the two big colors. And there's other like martial art like themes that kind of get brought into it. It's by no means a self-defense thing, though. It is very much an activity it's like a martial art activity is kind of how I talk about it with parents. If you are imagining the game show American Ninja Warrior, but for children, you're actually not too far off. That is a lot of what my job is. And I work specifically at I work specifically at a local YMCA here in my area. They are an officially licensed gym that has Ninja Zone. So that is, and like I said, my job title is literally Ninja Coach. That is on my resume now as a 30-year-old adult, and I love it.
I also love it. I love telling people that I'm friends with the Ninja Coach. It's great. Oh man, so for maybe a lot of people out there, they hear Ninja Coach, they might think like that's a really sweet sounding job that sounds super cool, or maybe like that's kind of weird. Even with your description, for a lot of people, it's still kind of unique, probably. For yourself, how would you, I don't know, compare it to other jobs in ways that you think like what makes it unique, but then also what ways maybe this job is more like some other jobs that people might relate to?
So it is a very quirky job. But when it comes to relating to other jobs, if you do something that involves children, like not necessarily like childcare, but if you're doing like an after school program, this is just a very unique style of a after school program. Our big, I work in the late afternoon and evenings. That's kind of our main event time. I guess you could put it like that's our big time for all of our classes. Yeah. And it's just kind of like a really cool, very unique after school program. And again, if you're someone out there who has taught in a gymnastics, tumbling, even cheer environment, like there's plenty of overlap. There's a lot of unique elements to it, but there are a lot of overlap within, the skills that are taught as well.
Yeah. As a ninja coach, someone who talks with kids, kids love fun word things. What's some of the fun lingo you get to use? Because there's got to be something that's just like crazy that you get to say all the time that nobody else does.
So a lot of that comes down to the ridiculous names that these skills have. So like my job is to, I guess I haven't actually like really explained this. So my job is to teach these skills, these parkour, gymnastics, and trick kicks to students who are like elementary age predominantly. We actually do start as young as 18 months. If the kid can walk, they can become a ninja.
What?
And so my job is to teach these. Yes. So it's called Baby Ninja because of course it is. And Baby Ninja is Baby Ninja is a parent in me class. So our job is really just Baby Ninja. It is. It does sound like a Pixar or DreamWorks movie. Basically, it is a parent in me class, which means that we create the environment for the students, but the parents actually are the ones working with the little ones. We're just to be there more as like for safety purposes. So my job is to build obstacle courses and to pass these skills along to these students. So I've got if you're picturing like American Ninja Warrior, we have like the ricochet mats that you jump from one to the other to the other. There's like these walls that are about like waist high to an adult that you learn these different vaulting techniques to get over them. We do have a warped wall, which is that thing that kind of looks like a ramp at a skate park that you run up. We also have the ninja rig, which has a variety of different, it kind of looks like the elimination chamber from WWE, but it's kind of got like all these different like climbing elements to it. Like there's a rope net thing. There's these really tall monkey bars, like a whole bunch of different ways to like climb around on it. And that's, I also am the academy coach. So I started doing the rec program, which is Baby Ninja, Little Ninja, and Youth Ninja, which is just these different age groups. It is predominantly boys who are students, nice. But you do get some girls. It's not like no girls allowed kind of thing. You do get some girls in there as well. And but I am the academy coach. So the difference between the rec program and the academy program is that in the rec program, there's a very specific skill sheet that you teach. It's one skill sheet where you learn things like forward roll, cartwheels, backward rolls, all that kind of stuff. Really basic kicks like roundhouse kick, hook kick, things like that. In the academy, there are 5 levels: white ninja, yellow, green, blue, and purple. As of this recording, we only have students as far as blue. We don't have any purple ninjas yet. And the bulk of our students are in yellow ninja right now. And in each of those different levels, you get a completely different set of skills that you learn at each one. You also get, it's a t-shirt with a ninja mask on it. That's kind of this cartoon looking ninja mask on it. And at white ninja, the mask is white. You go to yellow, you get a black t-shirt with a yellow mask, so on and so forth. Kind of like a little bit like the martial arts with the belts or sashes. But again, there's no combat element to this. You know, sometimes if you're floating around the stuff that I look at on Instagram, you see things like parkour MMA. That's not what's going on here. There's no like combat elements to this at all, but head-to-head combat elements to it. But yeah, when it comes to like the terminology, you know, I've dropped some terms along the way, but all of these skills, especially the parkour ones, just have ridiculous names. I can do a Kong, a double Kong, a tsunami, a butterfly. I can do trying to think, a twist, a macaco. I almost have my transformer, and
Nice.
I wish I could say I could do an aerial. If you're from the gymnastics world, you know what that one is. But yeah, all of some of those were kicks. Some of those are ways to get yourself up over an object. Basically, if you've ever played Assassin's Creed and you're like, I want to do this, that is my job. My job is to make little Assassin's Creed characters. That is what I'm doing for a living.
Perfect. That's what the world needs.
You ask the question. That's what the world needs. And you ask the question of like, who should look for this? Who should look, you know, if this sounds interesting to you, like who should do this kind of work? Basically, if you have a background in martial arts or gymnastics or parkour, you can make it work. So like I have this martial arts background, been doing martial arts for over 20 years. So doing the kicks has been really easy for me. They're starting to get tricky because it's like cheat 900s now, which are, again, none of these things are actually helpful in self-defense, but they look really cool when you do them, which is a jump spinning kick, by the way. I guess I'm purposely not explaining as much as possible just because it sounds cooler that way. But
it's more fun.
As long as you have like a background in what, yeah, right. As long as you have a background in one of those three areas, you can kind of learn on the job with the rest of the skills. So like for me, with the martial art background, doing the kicks has been so easy. I've been able to like introduce so much equipment that was commonplace in the martial art world. But when you're working with people who have more of a gymnastics background, it's like, okay, these are very basic kick pads that you need. So that way these kids can safely learn how to do these kicks. The parkour elements have also been pretty easy. That's like the easiest thing for me to kind of like learn next is all of the like how to get over this object in a really cool way. Like that has been the next easiest part. It's been the gymnastic stuff, especially like, you know, those bars, like if you watch the Olympics, you have the uneven bars that you like swing from. We do stuff with that. And that has been, my Polish dad bod has had a really hard time getting used to doing that stuff. But yeah, like if that is it, you can just Google Ninja Zone. It will come up and you can search on there wherever you're located at to see where your nearest gym is and see if they're hiring. If any of this wackiness sounds at all like I would totally want to go do this.
I think it all sounds wonderful. Quick aside before we pick the feedback up because we're behind, but it's fine. Glitches. I blame glitches. And TJ. Glitches and TJ. Not related, probably, but I'm also going to do what you did and not explain things. When I was doing martial arts, there was like, we learned a tornado kick, which was like, I guess I will explain it. It was like a step. And then after the step, you do a spin kick for some reason, a jumping spin kick. And then the reverse tornado kick was basically just the backwards part, but without the step. So it's just a spin kick. And like for the life of me, I still think about this. It bothers me as I'm like, not only is the reverse tornado easier, I mean, it's easier. I think it looks cooler. For some reason, we learned it at a more advanced level. It's also way more practical. And I'm like, why do we even learn the tornado? I'm like, why the extra step?
Right. Yeah. That's the thing about the tornado kick. And a lot of these, like the butterfly kick and the tsunami kick, again, they all look cool. And to very simply explain it, they all involve some combination of turning, stepping, and jumping. Like there's all that it plays out in different ways each time. But there is a good point there of like why the tornado kick is so ineffective in an actual fight, because you have to have that setup step. The tsunami kick, you actually start from like a neutral stance, just like feet together, and then you step into it. like you're walking into the kick. And I'm like, this makes sense. Let me just be as vulnerable as possible before I do this kick.
It's in case you're at an office meeting and you're like, you know what? I just want to kick that guy.
I'm going to kick Rick because he's such a jerk. A Kong, I will explain some of the vaults. A Kong is you run up to, like, let's say you're at a park and there's a bench and you're going to launch yourself over it. You jump, grab onto the top of the bench, and you pull yourself forward. Your feet never touch that bench. You don't put your feet down and then jump off it or anything like that. A macaco is you're down, feet on the floor, one hand behind you, and you kind of jump and push yourself through your toes and throw your legs over the top of your head to land on your feet. It's kind of like you're throwing yourself backwards.
This sounds super weird. Cool, but also practical.
Oh, yeah. Again, like,
I love it, though.
What's funny is, like, a lot of the stuff that we teach, like, you know, as you advance more, you learn front flip, back flip, front handspring, back handspring, aerial, like all of these stuff that, like, even if you don't know what some of these terms are, if you've ever watched the summer games and you've ever watched the women's, like, floor routine, especially in gymnastics, you've seen these skills. But what's funny is, like, this is the stuff that people assume you learn in the martial arts, because they've seen it in Power Rangers and other really cool, cheesy 80s flicks. And it's like, no, all of this stuff is actually super impractical when it comes to self-defense. But, or even like in a sport kind of environment, like a lot of this stuff is super impractical. It just looks cool.
Yeah. I will say Power Rangers.
It just looks cool.
Power Rangers is probably one of my favorite historical documentaries. Anyway, moving on so we can finish this up. For the meat of these episodes, we want to go through these 12 theological topics, and this is cheating because you go to seminary, so you know all these. Stuff that's often debated by theologians, podcasters, pastors, etc. We want to see how they impact people's everyday lives. So we're going to run through these 12 topics that our Facebook group voted on, not including the sandwich question. We already did that. And just like a multiple choice, I need you to let me know if you find it somewhat relevant, really relevant, or if you've never heard of it, but there's no point in me saying that. You know all of these. I know you well enough to know you know all of these. So just not relevant, somewhat relevant, really relevant. All right. I'm excited for this one. This is going to be fun because I don't know what you're going to say. And it's fun because you have like a deep knowledge of all of these, so what they are. But I don't know if that impacts your bias on whether or not you think they're relevant. All right, Brandon. Soteriology, the nature of what it means to be saved.
Doesn't matter. Irrelevant.
Free will versus predestination.
Irrelevant.
Atonement models.
Irrelevant.
It's all irrelevant. All right, continuationism versus cessationism when it comes to the gift of the Spirit.
Irrelevant.
Christology.
Irrelevant.
God's nature.
Irrelevant.
I'm really getting to be worried that they're all going to be irrelevant. Social justice.
That one is relevant.
Hooray! The doctrine of Imago Dei.
Might be surprising to listeners. Relevant.
All right, okay. The nature of Scripture.
Irrelevant.
Ecclesiology and missiology, what it means to be the church and how the church approaches outreach.
Irrelevant.
I know this has to be relevant. Demonology and angelology.
I wish it was. I wish it was, because I personally, yeah, that's irrelevant.
All right. Well,
I was so excited to do this part. I'm not going to lie.
None of our faith is relevant. Tell us why.
So here's the thing: is like it was hard for me to do this part because, as you oversold, as someone who is theologically trained and been doing pastoral work in pulpit supply forms, like it's weird to think like on paper, atonement is a big deal. Free will versus predestination, like that's a big deal, right? Like it totally, all jokes aside about hot dogs and sandwiches and Pop-Tarts and dumplings, like Like that is one of those ones that's like so often theologically waxed. And I personally love the study of demonology. But when it comes to like what I am doing, so much of this is completely irrelevant. And I work at the YMCA, the hub of muscular Christianity moralism. And most of this is completely irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to do this part a little bit different. It's fine. I was kind of surprised. You said soteriology was irrelevant. That, the nature of being saved. Because, like for a lot of us, it's like salvation that like defines everything about who I am, all that. Unpack that for me a little bit. Why to you is soteriology not feel very relevant?
It's not part of the job. I don't know how better to like, obviously when I am doing my job, okay. I am there to represent Christ in my work. But that doesn't mean that I'm like sitting down to witness to the, okay, now we're going to go through the Romans road. Like, yeah, they are there to learn specific skills and to do specific things. It's very much an environment where I am there to embody Christ by my actions and occasionally within my words as well. Like when I'm trying to have like, there are times when more serious conversations come up. But predominantly the things that really do matter in this environment, if we are going through this list of 12 things, is social justice. And like I said, based off of everything else, it might be kind of surprising, but in a roundabout way, the like reality of the Imago Dei does play a factor as well, I would say. But maybe I'm just being a bit of a jerk. But by and large, a lot of these, especially very like the cessation versus whatever the other word is, I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, that's not relevant. I'm sorry. Person who thought that one was relevant. It's not. It really has nothing to do with my job. Love ya. It has nothing to do with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But social justice, and I think there's an argument also for the Imago Dei being a factor in my work.
Yeah. It's funny because I probably am one of the ones that would argue cessationism and continuationism is super relevant. Personally, probably because I want it to be, but it's fine. And also, it depends on how you define it, gets the spirit, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's a whole long thing.
Et cetera, et cetera.
One of the things that's interesting, I would say by far, the two that get picked the most is like the most relevant throughout this whole series has been social justice and Imago Dei. And I think in progressive churches, you do hear a lot of social justice, and conservative churches, you hear why you don't need the social justice gospel a lot for some reason. I don't really hear a lot of people talking about Imago Dei. Like they might bring it up if you ask somebody, like, what's an important thing? They might say Imago Dei, like your pastors and stuff. I don't hear it preached about very often. Why? Yeah. Why don't we preach about Imago Dei more when, like, clearly that's what people want to hear more about?
Well, when the times when I hear Imago Dei comes from the pro-life or abolitionist camps talking about why we should preserve the life of those in the womb. The reason why I choose Imago Dei and social justice, to me, these two are actually going hand in hand, because especially in the environment I'm working in with the YMCA, you cannot call the YMCA woke because, one, that's not a bad thing. And two, you can't call them woke because the YMCA has for decades been working to be an inclusive place, to be a place for families and to be a safe space for people of all religious backgrounds, of all different walks of life, of all different shapes and sizes and gender identity. I worked with a trans person at the YMCA. There you go. So to me, maybe not so much like Ninja Zone itself, but the environment in which I am teaching it definitely values being inclusive, making a safe space for children and families. And to me, when we are talking about social justice this way, which is a very low entry point, admittedly, when it comes to social justice, this reaffirms Imago Dei. This reaffirms, even if that, I mean, by no means has anyone ever thrown that term around while I've been at work. But this reaffirms that human beings inherent worth. Yeah. Human beings have worth because they are made in the image of God. And we value that by creating a safe space for all people. So that's why, to me, of all of these, those are the two most relevant ones. Maybe if I sat down and really worked it out, I could figure out a way to make more of these work. I'm sorry, I still can't figure out how to make demonology fit in there. But I am very confident that social justice and the Imago Dei, one, they go together, and two, they are very present in my work.
Yeah. Of course, it's easy for me to make angelology and demonology work. So much of our current angelology, demonology relies on studies by Thomas Aquinas. And you do know, if you follow his work, that pretty much everything he says relies on logical fallacies. And knowing logical fallacies will help you from making stupid mistakes at work. So there you go. Don't be like Thomas Aquinas.
He was a big. He did love his Greek his Greek philosophy. That is for sure.
Yeah,
I will give you that. He did love his Greek philosophy.
All right, so you picked a couple. You focused in on Imago Dei, social justice. Yeah. A lot of the other ones you said were irrelevant. What would you rather the church and our pastors, theologians, be focusing on than some of these topics that we tend to hear them focus on?
What would I rather, the church or seminaries? Which one do you want me to answer, or like both?
Yeah. Both.
Both. Yeah. Yeah, both. Okay. How do I put this? Y'all, we need more ethic examinations. Okay. That's my thing. That's what seminary needs. You look, I'm my seminary life guy, and I shouldn't say constantly. I have gotten my fair share of people from the outside saying, this is wrong. What's wrong with seminary? And I go, bro, you don't even work here. You don't even go here. But one thing that's never brought up, and I think here's the scenario I want to present to you. Pastors have to take an ethics examination. They have to be required to take. Yeah. This is not happening. This is what I want to happen. Okay. Getting specifically Masters of Divinity and Pastoral Studies. If you're in some form of pastoral studies, you should be required to take an ethics examination. And in order to take an ethics examination, you then have to take ethics. You have to study ethics. And I'm not talking about the ethics class I took in college, which was basically waxing philosophically over if a hot dog was a sandwich. I mean, it's that kind of stuff, and those kind of classes. It's a lot of what's that ridiculous one of like you're in a runaway trolley car and it's either crash the trolley or run someone over. It's like, yeah, like if these things that
if you don't pull the lever, 4 people get murdered. But if you pull the lever, only 1 person gets murdered. Do you do the action killing the 1 person, or you just let 4 people die? And if that one person is named,
the answer I heard was from a Franciscan monk. And I think the best answer I heard was from a Franciscan monk who said, yeah, that's not how life works. That's not how that works. No, they need to not just wax philosophically about ethical situations and viewpoints that are irrelevant. They need to understand that bad things have consequences. Lawyers have to take ethics examinations. Counselors, depending on the state you live in, have to take board certified ethics examinations. Doctors have to take the Hippocratic Oath. Like, there is this check and balance of you understand that you are here to do good. And if you do bad, you're going to have consequences. And for that, I would say pastors have to study ethics. They have to take an ethics examination. And if there is a stealing money from the church or doing things that you should not be doing to minors, or having, even possibly to the extent of having an affair, you should lose your ethics card, and you cannot pastor until you go through the process again. That is, and I know I should have a better thing than ethics card. You lose your ethics certification.
Nope.
You have to take an ethics course, take the board certification again, and then you can re-enter ministry. But Brandon, what about grace? What about forgiveness and mercy? You're the one cheapening grace by protecting predators. I'm working at the stupid YMCA. I shouldn't say stupid. I love my job. I'm working at the YMCA teaching kids how to look cool doing kicks. And I am a mandatory reporter. I have had to take all these courses and certifications that were not part of my seminary training that taught me, hey, if you do bad things to children, there's consequences for that. If you are aware of someone doing bad things to children, you have to do something about that. Pastors should be held to the same standard. Seminaries should have to prepare pastors for that. And I'm sorry, churches. I'm sorry to the person who just wants to throw grace and mercy around because you care more about your pastor than you do victims. But there's got to be something. I don't know if this would fix everything. Obviously, people are always going to get through the cracks. There's always doctors and lawyers and counselors who do bad things. But hey, throwing a bar in the way that actually could make sense versus you need to be 30 years old, married with a kid, throwing the bar out there of, hey, you have to take an ethics examination. And if you fail, you can't enter ministry. And if you steal money from the church, you lose your certification and you can't minister anymore. To me, that seems like maybe that might help a little bit.
Yeah. It's crazy how in normal workplaces, it's a lot easier to contact your HR, report concerns about your boss than it is the church. In general, the church has terrible business policies just when it comes to hiring, firing, pays, vacation, COVID even.
Everybody, if you work for like...
COVID was handled terribly.
Oh, yeah. Everybody should go check out, if you work for a nonprofit, go see what their rating is on Charity Navigator. It's this organization. It's a third party that reviews websites. It's not like Yelp or Rotten Tomatoes where anyone can write a review of the organization. It's a third party that rates nonprofits and 501c3s based off of the transparency they have on the internet, on their website, on their social media. And who knows, you might find out that your really great 501c3 actually has a terrible rating because they're not as transparent as they should be.
Yeah. No, it's heavy. I also wish pastors had to take 2 logic exams. One that's actually teaching logic, and the other one is just to see how much they agree with Thomas Aquinas. I think that should affect whether or not you can do ministry. Anyway, so everyone sees the world through different eyes. Brandon.
My seminary life is going to do... No. Hold on. My seminary life is going to do a whole series now just devoted to St. Thomas Aquinas. And it's going to be finally... I've wanted to do this for a while where I just bring somebody on as like in a part-time guest host role, and we do a whole series together, and I just have to do this now.
It's got to be like a good cop, bad cop, where you say some nice things, and then I'm not even tear them apart.
I'm not even I would be a bad good cop because I don't even I have no strong feelings towards St. Thomas Aquinas. When you get into the apologetics world, the guy is everywhere, but then you can also completely tear down how we do apologetics. So that doesn't even help.
Before I started this podcast, the Whole Church podcast, I had no feelings about Thomas Aquinas. I had just mentioned it a few times. And then one day I started looking up why is he not like Thomas Aquinas? And then I started reading what this guy wrote. And I'm like, this guy is stupid. And now I'm just really passionate about it for some reason. Anyway, so each of us see the world through different eyes. As a coach, sensei, is there anything that you think you see that our pastors, church leaders, theologians would benefit for seeing for themselves or learning more about from people like you?
Yeah, I think, you read these studies or these books about the youngins, they're so anxious and so insecure and have all these kind of mental illness things. And you know what? Come work with me sometime. And you do see it. You have these kids who it's more than just having a fear of heights, because we do climb up really tall stuff and then jump down. That is a part of the job. But it is more than just a fear of heights. You do see kids who are truly struggling with anxiety, struggling with all these different mental health things. And also a lot of special need kids as well. Like definitely something I was not prepared for, of working with children on the spectrum. So I would say I would say that is like a big benefit that I think pastors and theologians could potentially benefit from, is actually like being on the ground and working with children rather than just reading about these things in a book and then saying, oh yeah, we should do something about that. Like it's different when you can actually like put a name and a face together of like, wow, you have so much anger and anxiety and you're 7. Like you really shouldn't.
Yeah, man. Whew. Man, it's been a lot. Brandon, usually at the end of our shows, we ask about practical actions kind of stuff. For this series, we've been asking everybody, what can the church do to better help people in your job? So like if someone's in the church or just like a local church was like, hey, we want to do more for our local coaches and senseis, like Brandon Knight. What could we do to better help our coaches and senseis?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Obviously, we'll just throw the easy, pray for us, because we're working with kids who are coming off of their ADHD medicine, and we are not necessarily trained to do that or to, again, work with kids on the spectrum. But, I think a big thing is, and I've really appreciated how you all have been handling this series of, I would really like to see the church maybe step away from the whole marketplace, how we talk about like you go into ministry or there's the marketplace, and it's kind of it's not the number 2, but it is, right? Like when we frame it that way, like it's the number 2 option. Be in ministry, or you can work in the marketplace. Plus, I just hate the word marketplace. It's just kind of a gross word. So yeah, I would say just kind of like, how about we just see all of life as ministry? Like it looks like very different ways, from serving people quality meals to teaching children to helping children learn that they can do amazing skills, amazing tricks with their body. Like, and it's because God has gifted us with like this weird meat bag covered in skin that we can do these ridiculous tricks. Like, it's so cool. Let's not treat other jobs as like secondary things. Like it is all ministry, and it's all cool, and it's all wonderful.
Man, that was beautiful. Yeah. What happens, Brandon, if we do that? Like if everybody does stop treating, other jobs as like the marketplace, so like not ministry, and we do like the church actually just treats everything like it's ministry. What changes?
I think if we did that, there may be more unity. Yeah, right. You're the Unity podcast, right? Like
that would be why.
Yeah, it's almost like this is the series finale, and I feel pressure to like tie this in a bow for everybody. But like, it is kind of like it is a way to like bring unity of like, oh, there's not the ministry people, the pastors, the theologians, and then all you marketplace people, but like we're all just working together to the glory of God. And our jobs, some of us preach, some of us teach, some of us are ninja coaches, and we're all just serving God in our very specific ways.
Yeah. Although some of us may be cooler than others. Come on, ninja. Anyway.
I do have the cooler job title.
Always good to have you, man. But
thanks.
We like to end with the God moment section. TJ always makes me go first, so I'll go first. Give you time to think about your God moment. 6 years ago today, I got engaged. So, sometimes I just
nice.
I like being married and just reflecting on life, and I'm like, I like life right now. I like being married and having dogs and cats and living in a nice little neighborhood. And I just feel blessed today. Yeah, just feeling blessed. That's my moment.
Good.
It's lame, but hey, it's a series finale. What do you expect other than a letdown or a hang?
Right.
What's I was about to call it a hangover. What's it actually called? Like the cliffhanger. There we go. Cliffhanger. I can't wait to end this with a cliffhanger now. Now I'm trying to figure out how to do a cliffhanger. Also, Brandon works a second job as a pterodactyl assassin. Find out next time.
Thank you for saying pterodactyl. You paused a little too long on Terra. I was like, he's not going to say terrorist, is he? Like,
the ultimate cliffhanger. Brandon's also a terrorist. Okay, what is your God moment or assassination mission?
Oh my gosh. My God moment would be that we are recording this just 2 days from my son Cooper's 3rd birthday. So all this week is getting things ready for his party here at the end of the week, which is Curious George themed. We're doing Curious George this year. So this has just been a fun time of getting things ready.
I just want Curious George goes to Wonderland. And the title of the movie is just Curious George. Curiouser and curiouser. Yeah, that's what I want.
Love that.
That's my new God.
Clever.
Moment. My new what if Curious George
right now.
Wonderland.
That's right.
All right. All right. Finishing up TJ's stuff and reading this outline. Please share it with a friend, enemy, or a cousin if you enjoyed the episode, or if you didn't enjoy the episode. I really don't care if you enjoyed it or not. Just share it with somebody. Now. All right. Also,
you better have liked it. You talked to a ninja coach, dang it. Like, you better have liked this episode.
How often do we get ninjas on the show? If you want cool merch what I'm wearing, if you're on YouTube, it's soft, it's comfy. You can go to our store. There's a link down below in the show notes, description, whatever you want to call it. Check out all the shows on the Love's All Podcast Network. Brandon does Kung Fu Pizza Party as well as My Seminary Life, both on the network. I do Dummy for Theology. It's fun. If you want to hear more about logic, theology, and why I don't like Thomas Aquinas, head over there. I also might be renaming it soon, so we'll see. Hope you enjoyed the show. Reading next week, we're going to do an encore to the series. The encore episode, of course, is going to be with Andy Walsh. We're going to be talking about faith and science and how his faith impacts his work as a scientist. Then we'll take a week off, and we're actually going to have a roundtable of pastors and professors who are going to help us reflect on this series. We're going to talk about like what people said was and wasn't relevant that's happening in seminaries and churches, and then we're going to talk to the leaders of these seminaries and churches and be like, hey, people said what you're talking about is not relevant. What are we doing? And see what they say.
What are we doing?
After that, we're gonna have some episodes with Theology Beer Camp. We got Brandon Sanderson's coming on about talking about being queer and Christian. Josh Patterson and Aaron, the leader of the Christian Podcasters group on Facebook, we're gonna talk about some contrary of post he did, where a lot of people got in the comments and attacked him, and we're like, well, is this really what Christian podcasters do? Attack people? I don't. We'll see. Anyway. We got a lot of fun stuff in the works.
Yes, that is what they do.
Hope you guys can make it to at least some of those. We're excited to see where the show goes next. Of course, at the end of season 1, we know what's going to happen. Francis Chan is going to be on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Probably. If you guys
tell
he is. And he agrees.